shitbag.
Do you want to put beans on camera? Bring beans up here, okay. This is absolute proof of evolution. Everything goes downhill. Right, Beans?
Hey, Kent, you idiot. Dogs are an example of artificial selection. It is evolution, but it's not done by natural selection. It's done by humans. It's actually a good evidence of how selection works, whether it be artificial or natural. And you're saying that because your dog is not a wolf, it somehow proves evolution wrong when it does the opposite, because the pressures being put on dogs were not natural. They were artificially selected by humans. Nonetheless, the way that it works is somewhat similar. So, like, nature will select for things like ability to breed, energy usage, making sure they're as efficient as possible, because those that are not efficient die out before they get a chance to propagate their genes. It selects for things like ability to get food, you know, survival traits, whatever that might mean to the specific area in which the animal lives. So giraffes get, you know, long necks over time so they can reach more leaves. Cheetahs get fast so they can catch their prey. Certain animals get better at hiding from predators. It's this whole thing. But Bumble Homestead, thank you for the 300 bits. I appreciate it. Oh, we're on a hype train, level 1, 76%. Awesome. What was I going to say? Shoot. I'm losing my train of thought because of the hype train. Oh, but artificial selection, as we see in domesticated animals, is a completely different animal. What selects is not things that are beneficial to the animal in terms of survival, but whatever traits the humans are using to artificially select which animals get to breed. For instance, in dogs, which started out as wolves, of course, MW1642 with 300 bits. Thank you very much. We're close to the level 1 of the hype train. I'm getting a hat ready. Boop. Boop. So in animals like wolves, when humans were artificially selecting them, taking the role of evolution out of it, or not taking the role of evolution, taking the role of natural selection somewhat out of it, and taking and putting our hand on the wheel, we decided things like compliance to humans, being less vicious, being, you know, cuddly, being able to work with humans and want to be near us and be comfortable with that, understanding human, like, facial expressions, which they've done experiments with in dogs, being able to follow commands. These are things that over generations and generations and generations we bred into these dogs by only allowing the ones who were a little bit better at each one in each successive generation. By allowing them to breed, we propagate those genes throughout the population of dogs. And then you get into when we start not using dogs so much as tools, as hunting tools or herding tools or whatever, into the modern era when we're making, you know, designer dogs for pets. And that's why your dog is so tiny and probably has a ton of health issues, because human beings have bred those things into them using the same mechanisms that evolution uses via natural selection, but humans have basically commandeered that process and used it to their own ends. Okay? So Kent, you stupid tax-evading idiots. You saying that your dog being less vicious than a wolf illustrates that you know nothing about either natural selection or artificial selection.
Yeah, there we go. Okay. All right.
Gratuitous nonsense. Thank you for continuing your gift sub.
Evolution theory is retarded. God made it.
Oh no! Kent dropping the hard R word. No, do not do. Why?
Everything in 6 days. He said so in the 10 Commandments. He wrote it on a rock with his finger. He don't stutter. He said, remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy, for in 6 days the Lord made heaven and earth, the sea, and all that in them is. Includes the stars, dinosaurs, everything. During those 6 days, we cover all that in our seminar series. You can get that at drdino.com or call, let's see, 855-BIG-DINO, extension 1. You'll send them some. Okay. Jesus said the creation of Adam was the beginning. Matthew 19:4, Mark 10:6. And the Bible says nothing died until Adam sinned. Man brought death into the world. 1 Corinthians.
That's pretty fucked up if you're like a buffalo or something and all of a sudden this pink bipedal animal eats a fruit and God's like, sorry, buffalo, you gotta die now. That's pretty unfair. God seems like kind of a dick.
Corinthians 15, same thing. But the textbooks say dinosaurs lived millions of years before man got here. Somebody's lying.
You're so close, Kent. You're so fucking close.
I know who it is, too. God's word is true, okay?
Okay, but you're presupposing that what is written in the Bible is literally the word of God and not something that was interpreted by humans, not something that was written by humans millennia ago, right? You're assuming that because it is in the Bible, God literally dictated this to someone. And again, even though I'm not a Christian, I'm not telling people that they can't be a Christian. By all means, you have a right to your own beliefs, and that's great. But it's pretty clear that a lot of the things, especially in the Old Testament, that are sort of prescriptive in terms of the origins of the earth and some of the events that happen early on in the Bible, like Noah's flood, were stories and myths written by human beings. And as it turns out, based on the evidence that we found with the scientific method, those stories don't really hold up to scrutiny. And that's fine. Every religion in the world has, some sort of origin myth. They obviously can't all be right, so it stands to reason, especially because they were written by people long ago before people really had the tools to look at evidence for the origin of the earth. It stands to reason that they're going to be wrong. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You can still hold your religious beliefs while accepting that a lot of the things written in your holy text may not exactly be literal, right?
Dinosaurs always lived with man. Evolution is the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of the world. Okay, we need a bunch of campers and motorhomes for housing guests here. If you have one and would like to loan it, it'll sit right here.
How did he segue so quick from talking about the Bible into scamming people out of their campers?
You can come get it when you go on your vacation, but meanwhile, we get to use it as a guest place for people to stay. We got 20 motorhome hookups, and we can put in more. You see, I think I'll park mine down there. Dinosaur bin.
Kent, don't you own a business? Shouldn't you be, making enough money to make sure that you can get these for yourself? Why are you trying to scam people into letting you use their campers and depreciate the asset they've worked hard for?
Adventureland. There are some screwball.
I'd also, frankly, if I owned any sort of property that was movable, well, I guess I have a car. Let's say Kent was like, hey, can we use your car? I'd be like, are you paying your taxes at this point, Kent? Because I'm pretty afraid that at some point the IRS is going to raid your place and seize all the property. It's a little bit of a low blow, but nonetheless, I think it's a real concern before you put your property on Kent's property, right?
Campers out there. Now that one is for midgets. Okay.
Wow. His entire sense of humor is around, denigrating people and using, denigrating language towards people who are different than him. It's really fucked.
Or we can build cabins in the woods for about $4,000 each. We could probably build this one for $500.
It's a picture of a rundown shack. Humor.
We like to build some tree houses. I have 47 million trees on the property. If we could tell the guests, hey, all we got open is that tree house up there. Go on up and you stay there for the night. We turn down people every week, don't we? We don't have housing.
Yeah, we're short on housing.
Short on housing. So if you'd like to come do that, you can put your company name on there and say this tree house donated by, or this motorhome by a company, or in memory of somebody or a loved one. If you'd like to do that, please call Julie. Right, you're going to take care of that? Yep. 855 Big Dino. Yes, ma'am.
There can be like a little ladder, and it can be for kids and stuff. People just
have a ladder up there and have the kids go up.
That would be perfect.
Yeah. Wait till you see. Wait till.
So, just to be clear, he's calling things like the R word and making fun of little people in front of a small child. Classy as always, Kent.
You see the new swing that we are putting up. Were you able to find any of the turnbuckles, brother?
Just two.
Two.
Yeah, but I got all the bolts. That's
Okay. So we're getting close. That's going to be a swing. That was so cool. We had one in Pensacola, the giant swing. We called it the Leap of Faith. We built a platform. You have to hook a rope on and pull the swing up to you, sit in it, and jump off.
Oh my gosh.
That was only 16 feet off the ground. But you can feel the moment of faith. It's weird when you can feel your faith, but you really can. You're standing there on the platform looking down saying, will this hold me? I think this, yeah. But until your feet leave the platform, you don't. There's a difference between believing and really believing. Believing and trusting. Well, this one's going to have 3 levels. We're going to have normal,
Suicide.
insane, and suicide. Yeah, okay. We'll think of some good names for them. If you have not come to take the real tour at Dinosaur Adventureland, come on down. We give people tours all the time. We have lots of people come through here and see the place. It's amazing to come through and take tour of the property and see the Science Center going together. The Science Center, Dan, okay. Come see our new baby Zebu. How many got to pet the baby Zebu already? She's up in the chicken coop now with the chickens. Go in there and say hi. Here's how you jumpstart a millennial.
Is he literally just taking awful Facebook memes that he knows and throwing them into his presentation? This is some, like, crazy boomer shit. Also, that kid's like a Zoomer. Why do old people think millennials are still 15 years old? Millennials are in their mid-20s to late 30s.
People send me the coolest stuff. Rich sent me this one. He said, Brother Hovind, you can't fix stupid, but you can numb it with a 2x4.
Violence is a punchline. Hitting people is funny.
Wow.
Good one.
And this is the real way evolution happened. The apes teach that we progressed up to an ape. Yeah. Okay, boot camp at Dinosaur Adventure.
Kent, that's not how anything works, though. We don't teach that we descend from modern apes. We have a common ancestor with them. Jesus Christ. Whoever had the, the famous image of the progression where it's like an ape and then a different hominid and, and it goes up to human. Whoever made that image, I hate them so much for making the first, like, a modern ape. Because creationists like Kent Hovind and Ken Ham have been using that as, like, evidence that evolution is silly for 40 years or so. And it's like, it's not an accurate representation of what evolution actually says. Please stop.
Adventureland, July 24th. That's in 3 weeks from today.
Please call me if you're coming.
Call Julie if you're coming so we can keep count, keep records for food.
Section 1.
Extension 1, 855 Big Dino, Extension 1. Boot camp coming up. Bill Sardi's going to be speaking here. A good longtime friend of mine, Matt Powell. And let's see, the Puppet Ministry, Hands Toward Heaven, will be here for the kids. Joey Faust and Zachary Schertz. I've not met Zachary, but then a controversial speaker.
That's a good mugshot, Kent. I'm glad you decided to throw that in here.
Stirs up trouble, Kent Hovind. Okay, if you want to help us stay open for free, join our 777 Club. Go to drdino.com and go to the donate page and make any checks to CSE.
Didn't Darwin make that? Maybe. I have no idea who made it. Either way, it's inaccurate.
We want to help win souls. We're going to start a new series tonight. It was supposed to be Q&A. I couldn't get ready in time. It's been hectic today.
I don't think it would have been Darwin because hominid species hadn't been discovered yet, I don't think. Like fossils. So, I don't know.
I started at 3:30 this morning and still couldn't get it all done. But we're going to have a new series. Several people have asked, Brother Hovind, can you do your book, Why on Earth Did God Let This Happen, as an audio book? And I thought I would do it not only as an audio book, but tell you some of the history behind some of these stories in here. This was life-changing for me to write this series, okay? It gives you a depth of soul that there's just no other way to describe it. If you want to get the book, it's $32, hardback. Call Julie, 855 Big Dino. Okay, so we're going to read this for some friends of mine that are blind that would say, Brother Hovind, would you please read the book to me? Well, I am, and I'm going to explain. You will have times in your life when...
Why would I buy this book if you're going to read it to me for free on your YouTube channel? That's a bad business decision.
You wonder, why on earth did God let this happen? How many have ever had that happen in your life already? God, why on earth did this happen to me? You don't have to live very long and that'll happen. Something will come up. You'll wonder why. When I was sent to prison, November 2006, for no crime at all.
Nope. Kent Hovind, let's see what you went to prison for specifically, because I always forget. Let's see. Convictions. On July 11th, 2006, Hovind was indicted on 58 counts in the District Court of Northern Florida. I would like to see just the sentencing. I want to see... Let's start here. The trial began October 21st, 2006. Hovind hoped to convince a jury. Thank you to MW1640. Oh, wait, no. High-level ideas. Thank you for continuing your subscription. And says, congrats on partner. Thanks so much. The trial began on October 21st, 2006. Hovind hoped to convince a jury that his amusement park admission and merchandise sales over $5 million from 1999 through 2004 belonged to God and could not be taxed. That's not how taxes work. Evidence produced at the trial revealed that Joe Hovind had requested financial assistance from Baptist Healthcare by claiming that the Hovinds had no income. Doubt. Thank you, Maya is bored for 5 bits, saying, if you want to feel hate and confusion, check out the barf pile that is Matt Powell. I'll check him out sometime. IRS agents told the court how Hovind had attempted bullying tactics and had sued the government 3 times to pressure them to stop investigating. The lawsuits had been thrown out. The prosecution countered attempts to describe workers as missionaries, ministries, and volunteers, introducing memos in which they had been called employees. Workers testified that they had to punch time cards, had vacation and sick days, and did not receive W-2 tax forms. After the IRS executed the search warrant, employees were required to sign non-disclosure agreements and to remain employed. A lawyer who did work for a non-profit Christian organization testified that Hovind, that Hovind claimed that he had beat the tax system and that he favored cash transactions because they were untraceable and consequently untaxable. Hovind's lawyer engaged in a lengthy cross-examination of the lead IRS investigator, and the case ended on November 1st with the defense calling no witnesses. After closing arguments were presented on November 2nd, the jury deliberated within 3 hours before finding the Hovinds guilty on all counts. 58 for Hovind and 45 for his wife. Let's see what the actual... let's see. The first 12 counts were charges for willful failure to collect, account for, and pay over federal income taxes and FICA taxes in connection with the CSE operation, totaling $473,818 for the 12 fiscal quarters of 2001 to 2003. The next 45 counts were charges for knowingly structuring transactions by making multiple cash withdrawals totaling $430,500 in amounts just under $10,000, which requires reporting. Yeah, my mom worked for a bank, and I had friends who worked for a bank too. If you pull out $10,000 from a bank, you need to fill out forms as to, like, make sure the IRS knows what's going on, because it can be... oh boy, it could be sketchy. It could be used for illegal purposes, for which his wife was also charged. The last count was a charge of corruptly endeavoring to obstruct and impede the administration of the Internal Revenue laws by falsely listing the IRS as his only creditor when filing for bankruptcy, filing a false and frivolous lawsuit against the IRS in which he demanded damages for criminal trespass, making threats of harm to those investigating him and to those who might consider cooperating with the investigation, filing a false complaint against the IRS in which he demanded damages for criminal trespass, making threats to harm those investigating him, and to those who might consider cooperating with the investigation, filing a false complaint against the IRS agents investigating it. Wait, did I already... oh no, it's still going. Filing false complaints against the IRS agents investigating him, filing a false criminal complaint against the IRS special agents, and destroying records. You cannot spoliate Kent Hovind because of reports of weapons on the Hovind property. The indictment was originally sealed for fear of danger to the arresting agents. So, Kent, When you say you were arrested and put in prison for no reason at all, you mean on something like 58 counts of tax fraud and fucking with the IRS. Stop lying, Kent. Isn't bearing false testimony a sin in the Bible, Kent? So come on now, let's not be dishonest, okay?
Didn't break any laws at all. And by the way, we are so...
Well, you were convicted, so that's false.
them, and the case is still going through the court. We'll see.
The case is not still going through the court. You were convicted like a decade ago, and now you're trying to sue the federal government, and I'm not kidding if you haven't heard about this nonsense. He's trying to sue the federal government for $500 million. He's nuts. He's like a weird sovereign citizen type, and he thinks he's gonna be able to sue this federal government for $500 million, despite the fact that he committed crime. He might get in trouble for this frivolous lawsuit against the IRS once again. I don't know if he just wants to go back to prison or what. Daughter of Tiamat says the original graph was made for a magazine in 1965. Here's a wiki about it. So it's like a magazine image that became famous. I gotcha. Very strange. Thank you to Daddy Sume with 10 bits saying, well, the sovereign citizens were originally created as people who didn't want to pay taxes. True.
Try everything they can to throw it out on some little technicality.
It's not a technicality. You're trying to sue them for false imprisonment when you were convicted of all the counts of the things you were accused of, Kent.
But when I was sent to prison, I wondered, God, why? And the first month there, I wrote my first story, a letter, as if I thought, I bet these Bible characters thinking the same thing. Why did you do this? One of John the Baptist's disciples was named Andrew. And
Kent,
he heard Jesus.
John the Baptist was beheaded for his religious beliefs. You were put in jail for not rendering unto Caesar that which was Caesar's, a thing that Jesus said to do. Not exactly the same situation.
Jesus speak and started following Jesus. And then later, John the Baptist is thrown in prison for preaching against Herod's sin. And so I wrote a letter from Andrew to John the Baptist saying, John, why do you think God let this happen? And so this whole series of books is stories from either me to a Bible character or a Bible character to some other Bible character to make you stop and really get some, I think, hopefully some depth in searching the scriptures. So this will be my audio book. Why on earth did God let this happen, for heaven's sake? I need to tell you on the first page, there's a correction you got to make. It's a new address now. We're in Pearl Lane. It still has the Pensacola address in here. And one of the guys who has a website that hates Kent Hovind, he calls himself Lies of the Devil. He started a website for it and then refused to give it back to us. So now, when you click on the website in here, it takes you to him.
You can't let those domains lapse, Kent. It's tricky.
Anti-Hovind, where's the page number? So we have to correct the website. It is drdino.com. It is not the one that he has in here. So this is introduction. Dear God, this book is a result of a tragedy that God used for good, as he always does, combined with my hyperactive and slightly eclectic mind.
It's not a tragedy, Kent. Tragedies are something like Romeo and Juliet, where a series of events outside of people's control causes them to make several mistakes that in hindsight serve to cause some sort of disaster. What you did was break the law, and predictably you went to prison for it. That's not a tragedy. That's consequences for your actions.
Jesus told a lot of classic stories that immediately bring a picture to your mind. Matthew 7 is one of my favorites. And why beholdest thou the mote in thy brother's eye, but considerest not the beam in thine own eye? Or how wilt thou say to thy brother, let me pull out the mote out of thine eye, and behold, a beam is in thine own eye? Thou hypocrite, first cast out the beam out of thine own eye, and then shalt thou see clearly to cast the mote out of thy brother's eye. As you read it, you immediately imagine yourself watching a man with a log stuck in his eye, bending over helping a friend get a speck out of his. It's a visual image. Why do you got a beam in your own eye? Quit worrying about the speck in your brother's eye. Jesus often told stories or asked questions to make his audience stop and think long and hard, to teach life-changing truths. Many times the questions Jesus asked are never answered. God asked Job 84 questions, none of which are answered. But those questions sure made Job think. He repented at the end just because of God's questions. The book of Jonah ends with a question that is never answered. Over my many years of ministry for the Lord, I've been in scores of situations that made me stop and think. This book contains imaginary letters from my hyperactive mind. I've left them in the order they are written. These snapshots of my life and the lives of various...
Can you imagine being Kent Hovind's cellmate in prison? That's gotta be annoying, right? Do you think he tried to convert literally everyone he came across in prison? Because that would be super annoying.
Others were designed to make you Selah, stop and think. Psalm 3:2. Any resemblance between these writings and a real book is purely coincidental.
His sense of humor is so bad. It's such like boomer humor.
There is no particular plot or theme to this book. It's a collection of my random musings as I rode the emotional roller coaster that anyone locked away from their loved ones clearly understands. Often during my own Bible reading time, I would come across a Bible character and decide to knee-mail them. Instead of email, knee-mail, get on your knees. You can talk to anybody, past, present, future, yeah. And I had a wonderful time talking with these people, and I learned a lot from them. So later on, the book changes over to being knee-mails. It starts off just letters. I gave my life to Jesus Christ at age 16 on February 9, 1969. I've been trying to serve God since. After teaching high school science and math for 15 years, God led me to start
Ew, he was a teacher?
Creation
Yikes.
Science Evangelism in 1989. This ministry defends the Bible as being scientifically accurate and exposes evolution as being the dumbest and most dangerous religion in the history of humanity.
Oh my goodness. Kent, the Bible is many things. It's a holy text to billions of people, and that's a fine thing. It's not a science textbook. It was written before science was a thing. You cannot say it is scientifically accurate when it is clearly not.
Our goal has always been to bring people to Christ and strengthen the faith of believers. After a long and frustrating battle with the IRS, I was sent to prison November 2nd, 2010.
We won't watch this whole thing, because we're only like a third of the way through. We'll go a little bit longer, and then we'll spin the wheel and move on to something else.
2006, to serve a 10-year sentence for alleged violation of IRS codes.
Not alleged. You were convicted. You were convicted over those things. You broke IRS codes and avoided taxes. And then you sued the IRS to try and stop them from investigating. It's not alleged. You did them. You were convicted.
In relation to our church ministry. Prayerfully, the case will be overturned and our ministry exonerated of all charges.
No, that's not going to happen. For the rest of human history, if we continue, and let's say, hopefully there isn't some horrible thing where, like, the records of this era are completely destroyed, like some sort of digital library of Alexandria burning. For the rest of time, if someone looks up the figure Kent Hovind, the first thing that's going to come up is the fact that you avoided taxes and went to prison for it. Because it's hilarious. And the fact that you're bringing this up again and again and again and again. I forget what it's called, but there's this, basically law. There's this rule that if you try and, like, fight something, it just brings more attention to it. Kent, the fact that you're suing the government for $500 million means that this is going to stain your reputation even further. Streisand effect. Yes, thank you. Kent.
And here's where it has the wrong website. It was during my first 12 months of incarceration that this book was written. Book 2 was written during my second year. Book 3 during the third year. It started because I was simply writing updates on my status from the county jail for our ministry blog site. Interspersed with these first Dear God letters, as I called them, in May of 2007, I began writing to God and getting his response in the form of emails. It was suggested I call them knee-mails instead, most appropriate. Some have suggested that many of these writings can be used as mini dramas before church services.
Wait, are you actually hearing a voice that you think is God? Because you should get that checked out. People don't literally hear the voice of God unless they have, like, some sort of schizophrenia. Kent, please get that checked
In Sunday
out.
school classes, etc. Persons in the drama could dress in...
Daddy Sume with 10 bits says, something like that happened. We get tons of original musical recordings in Universal Studios warehousing. So much stuff was lost, like recordings going back to 35 in 2008. That sucks. That sucks a lot.
character and act the part of God and read off stage via the sound system. It may sometimes be helpful to summarize the Bible story or read the actual scripture before the drama. These letters may also be sent to encourage others who are suffering, who are lonely, or question God.
He's calling himself Dr. Kent Hovind. Let me see where he got his doctorate. Education. Control F. Doc. There we go. In 71, he graduated from East Peoria Community High School in East Peoria, Illinois. He entered the accredited Illinois Central College, then transferred to the unaccredited Midwestern Baptist College in 1972, attaining a bachelor. No, he didn't. I wish they wouldn't say this shit. He received a master's degree and doctorate in Christian education through correspondence from an also unaccredited. Can we stop saying they received a doctorate from an unaccredited school? If it's unaccredited, you didn't receive a doctorate. You received a piece of paper that had the word doctor and your name on it. If it's unaccredited, you do not have that. You are not a doctor, Kent Hovind.
There are millions of people who would be encouraged just to receive a letter.
It makes me want to, like, legit just do it. Oh, thank you, Black Treen, for subscribing. It makes me want to get a doctorate, so when I deal with people like this, I can start calling myself, like, Dr. Hannah. I have a doctorate in bullshittery.
There are over 2 million people who are in our jail system or prison system in America. We have the largest per capita of any country in the world.
Yeah, it's fucked up. Our prison system, and especially for-profit prisons in this country, are ridiculous and messed up, and we have over-policing that results in over-prisoning, especially of people in minority communities. It is fucked. But Kent, even if we had the most reasonable prison and justice system in the world, you still would have gone to jail. You would have gone to prison because you broke tax law. That's like the one law you can't do. That's like the one that everyone's like, nope. You ever hear there are two things in life that are unavoidable? Death and taxes. You tried to avoid one of the two things you can't. You went to prison.
America, the land of the free. 4th of July tomorrow. Biggest jail system in the world. Bigger than Russia and China put together. Many of these people in jail never get any mail and would be encouraged to get a brief letter with a tract or one of these Dear God letters. You can ask a jail chaplain for a list of inmates who never receive mail. I was in South Carolina at the jail, and every mail call, they'd call my name, and I get 40 or 50 letters every night. And one boy, his name was Country, and he was Country, hick all the way. He said, I wish I got some mail. I never get any mail. I've been in jail for 3 years. I said, Country, do you want some mail? He said, yeah. So I posted a blog. I think it's in here later. Would you please send Country a letter? Here's his address. The next week he got 47 letters, and he was in hog heaven, just to get a letter in jail.
I like the sentiment. It's nice to get someone some mail so they feel like they have communication with people from the outside world. Unfortunately, I'd imagine a lot of these letters were proselytizing to this poor guy, but that's a completely different story for another day. Vulcan Princess 97 says, Hannah, when you marry Baja, just do what Ben Shapiro does and use your wife's doctorate as proof you know what you're talking about. True. Daddy Sume with 10 bits. If Al Capone couldn't get away with it, what makes you think you can? Also true.
There are many others in nursing homes or hospitals or serving in the military or on mission fields that could benefit from a letter. If every Christian would pick 3 or 5 people to pray for each week or visit or write, they could help bear one another's burdens and so fulfill the law of Christ, Galatians 6:2. It is my prayer that these letters will bless you, inspire you, and lead others to a relationship with their Creator, and draw you closer to Christ and strengthen your faith, especially to those in prison. May God bless you. I truly know how you feel. I have sat where you sat. Ezekiel 3:15. Please use your prison time to grow closer to the Lord. Talk to Him. He loves you. May all glory, praise, and honor go to Him. Ken Hovind. That's the introduction. I had a friend of mine do some artwork of John the Baptist eating locusts and wild honey, laughing about it as one of his disciples tries to eat the locust.
That's sort of cute, humanizing art. When you see, like, biblical art, a lot of it, for one thing, is Renaissance art. But even like, modern art done of biblical characters is usually very, very, like, grandiose. And by the way, even though I'm an atheist, I find Christian mythology to be, like, fascinating. I love the shit. I grew up on it when I was still a Christian. But I like the idea of, like, humanizing art of biblical figures to be like, hey, these aren't these grandiose, almost Greek heroes that are supposed to be larger than life. A lot of the characters in the Bible are just, like, people doing their best. So I do like the idea of that, even if Kent is awful. Like, that's cute. Like, yeah, John the Baptist eating locust and honey in the wilderness. It is funny to think about, like, him getting one of his disciples to try and do it, and they're grossed out by it, and he's laughing. Like, that's very human. I like that.
Okay. Background. Romans chapter 8 tells us God searches the hearts, and He makes intercession for the saints. And verse 28, we know all things work together for good to them that love God, to them that are the called according to His purpose. This only applies to certain people. If you love God and you're called according to His purpose, then everything will work out fine.
You went to prison for 10 years, Kent. So how's that working out for you? Anyway, we're gonna call the day on Kent, at least this video, unless we come up with creationism again, then we'll launch a different video. But I just find it funny that he still doesn't admit that he went to prison for breaking the law. So, whatever, Kent.
There's nothing funny
Good
about
luck with your
capitalism.
$500 million lawsuit. Good luck if that blows up in your face.